Tour de Pologne, because of the Groenewegen-Jakobsen crash, there is a spotlight on the race in terms of safety, probably rightly so. And so the downhill finish was removed, which featured in that finish with the Groenewegen-Jakobsen crash. There's a big crash here. The riders can't see in a 90-degree corner the exit. They can't see whether it widens or narrows. They can't see. All they know is 90-degree corner, I'm going to slow down enough to hit the apex to make the corner itself. Hopefully it opens up or it stays the same width. If a corner narrows or doubles back more, that's when you get really big issues, when the barriers don't open up with the natural road. And that's what happened here. And I just saw it, and before they ended, I'm like, there's going to be a crash because it didn't open up. It's almost narrowed. Turnison goes down. I think a UAE rider went down before him when I saw the spectator view. And it kicked off on Twitter about Tour de Pologne again. And this wasn't just the only finish that I thought, I was like, wow, that's a sketchy corner. There was another stage, I don't know which one, where by some act of God or a miracle, there was no crash. There was an island in the corner in a sprint finish, like a proper island with like a pole in it. They couldn't even hop it. And somehow no one crashed. And I can't even blame the race, Benji, because who is approving it? There's rules been brought in. There's a UCI like safety commissaire who's supposed to approve the finishes. And I'd like to know, like, have they ever not approved a finish? Like, how are these passing? But this show, as always, is brought to you by Zwift. Whether you're just starting out on your cycling journey or looking for those final tune-ups ahead of a big event or race, Zwift is the online cycling platform that makes things fun, as well as being the named sponsor of the Tour de France Femme avec Zwift and this podcast. If you want to find out more about Zwift, the platform, the race, go to Zwift.com, and if you want to try it out, you can get a free 7-day trial.
In the order that they are, for example, stage 1, there's a situation on the right side of the road with roughly a kilometer to go where, like, the barriers go inside the road, basically. And as a consequence, a UAE rider just narrowly avoids crashing, causing a ripple effect in the peloton that causes a crash on the opposite side of the peloton in stage 1. So that's number 1. We go to stage 2. Fortunately, no crashes there. But if you look at the finish line, the road to the finish line actually narrows. Good luck sprinting in a straight line. It's another example of a thing that should not happen in a race. Again, I'm over-analyzing these finishes, but these are things that should not be happening in any race that occur. Like you mentioned, I think it's stage 4 where at 400 meters to go, the traffic island is in the middle of a corner. Also, like you said earlier, you go into the corner, you don't expect the traffic island to be there. You see another rider narrowly evading that traffic island once again in this stage. Stage 5, I'll be honest, like the first time I saw the crash, I thought, okay, this is a rider slipping in a corner. But when you look at the corner, like you mentioned, it narrows in the corner, makes it much harder for the riders to figure out what is coming when they're going into that corner. But next to that, once the riders crash, we've got the same issue that we had in the Jakobsen Groenewegen crash, where the barriers disconnect and therefore it opens up completely. And it's the same barriers from what it looks like to me that were at that finish in Groenewegen Jakobsen. Those yellow banner barriers, the ones that move quickly, you saw them flying again in this specific crash. And that's something that was brought up as an issue back then and is still not fixed in this position. Now, I will say, Tour de Pologne has made significant moves when it comes to the safety at finish lines with the Boplan barriers, those like plastic things, like the proper barriers that were used in Gent-Wevelgem and so forth. They are used at the finish line now, but not with 900 kilometer meters to go, for example. So that's the issue there. But they could have at least like anticipated going into this corner that issues could occur and therefore have those safety pillow thingies in those corners just in case people crash. But also, when it comes to the thing you mentioned, the UCI safety officer, how does that process even work? Like, it gets selected before it's put into the calendar. That's how I read it, at least, based on the information that the Riders Union put on a tweet earlier today. And when it comes to the actual check itself, how would one even check the barriers and so forth before a race? An hour before the riders
if you do it
pass?
in the morning, how do you change it? It's too late.
Exactly.
Like, got to set up the timing equipment, the finish. Like, how can you change it the morning of?
And even worse, like in this situation, it's the barriers. Like something like that, you can probably still change throughout the day. But if it's an issue like we had in Vuelta a Burgos, where there's a downhill finish with a speed bump in it in the last kilometer, that's an issue with the initial selection of the race, I would guess.
And like, is the commissaire, when the route's announced and they get the GPX files, are they going onto Google Maps and imagining where the barriers will be, or Google Earth or whatever it's called, Street
Is that
View?
even updated on time?
Well, yeah. Like, how else will they do it? Like, are they? I doubt when the GPX files are announced, I'm happy to be corrected. They go and walk the course 6 weeks before. Like, I doubt it. So
Yeah.
yeah, and I guess the answer is, well, no. There's also the counter argument that there will be crashes in sprint finishes. There is no way you will ever stop there being crashes in sprint finishes. There is no way you are going to have sprint
Agreed.
finishes that are all 5 kilometers in a straight line, no speed bumps, no road furniture in Europe. It's impossible. Doesn't
And
exist.
there's also the factor that based on like the normal non-cycling narrative is that people are trying to make cities are trying to make themselves safer by adding those objects, by adding traffic islands, by adding speed bumps to make it safer for citizens and so forth throughout a normal day. But obviously, I won't criticize that. But it indirectly makes the last kilometers of races in cycling harder because those cities pay to have finishes there, but they also pay to make traffic islands come into their city. So it's kind of it it clashes.
Well, then in the tour they remove them. So when the tour route happens and a town pays, the tour will go, ASO, I think, or whoever will go and be like, you need to get rid of that, you need to get rid of that, that needs to be changed in the finish, and they rip it up because it's the Tour de France. And if you want
Yeah.
the Tour de France, you're going to change it. I don't know if that happens in other races. I will say, though, crashes will occur in sprints. Sprints are not going anywhere. You're not going to change the, furniture in European towns anytime soon. That being said, if guys are going to risk life and limb, and teams are going to be compelled to go, they damn well better be getting some sponsor exposure out of it. The way the sport works is they get no TV, they get no revenue really from the races. They get no TV revenue sharing. They get paid from sponsors who pay them for exposure. So for guys to be risking life and limb when this race has been almost impossible to watch for anybody outside of Poland, it's just broken system. And like, it's just, are Arkea Samsic here? They are not. So Arkea were like, you know what? No, thank you. Don't feel like fielding a team. You know what other race Arkea didn't go to, which doesn't sell, I don't think has its rights in France free to air? The Giro d'Italia. Arkea were like, you know what? Second biggest Grand Tour? Don't feel like it. All the costs associated with it. We'll skip it because they actually get to, whereas the World Tour teams don't have that luxury. That's why it's actually an unfair system, the relegation battle, because Arkea can go to the most profitable races, both from exposure, both from points, and a race that doesn't offer that, they're like, meh, not going to go to that. Surely there'll be changes. I don't know. Like, if I was a World Tour team having to field guys here, it's just, I'd be looking at the costs and be like, why am I doing this? What is the point of this?